Hey, I'm James from Smoking Dead Barbecue, and today is a battle of the titans. We're putting the large Big Green Egg head to head against the Kamado Joe. Now, before we get started, let's answer the obvious question, since you're probably thinking, James, I see a little bit more red in the background than green, and green actually runs deep in my blood. Before Kamado Joe was even a company, I'd worked my way up to 4 Big Green Eggs. Like this one, my first purchase was a large Big Green Egg, got a second large, a mini max, and eventually a mini. But over time, I started to see this company, Kamado Joe, come into existence and start innovating. And this started to get under my skin. The marketing slogan for Big Green Egg is the original since 1974, and it felt like I was maybe buying a product built in 1974. The first generation didn't bother me whatsoever from Kamado Joe. This felt largely comparable to what I had. The second generation started to introduce a couple, that would be nice features like the airlift hinge, the control tower top, a better gasket, and albeit at a significant price savings versus what I paid for my large Big Green Egg. But then the Series 3 came out, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back, largely as there was a number of new things, and I came across an article on Engadget how a Harvard class changed barbecue, the slow roller, the extra height, and I just couldn't bear it anymore. And so this actually is the first Kamado Joe that I ever did purchase, and I mentioned that. I did purchase that along with my most recent Big Joe Series 1 out of pocket a few weeks ago, actually, at Lowe's. This video is not sponsored by any manufacturer, and I don't receive a commission tied to the sale of either grill. So if you happen to pick one, whichever one is right for you and your budget at the end of today, I hope you come back and enjoy some other cooking techniques, because they largely apply to either grill. But what I did want to do is update a review, since I had owned an egg long before Kamado Joe was ever a company, and I used one that I bought long before Kamado Joe was ever a company, and I was frustrated that Big Green Egg wasn't innovating. What I reviewed was an old egg to a brand new Kamado Joe, but pretty much after I made the decision to sell my Big Green Eggs, Big Green Egg started listening, and there's a few new innovations on this egg that I didn't have on my own. There's an updated hinge and assembly that is there to help stop the domes from sliding loose and falling onto the ground. There's an updated gasket, new side shelves, new nest, a regulator cap, the egg expander system, which is more comparable to the Kamado Joe Divide and Conquer and creates multi-zone cooking options. So there's actually been a ton changed. And now that I've got a couple years under the belt on Joe, I've got over a decade experience on the egg, I think it's time to update the Battle of the Titans and walk you through the complete features, pros and cons of each grill. So if you're in the market, you can make the decision that's right for you. So let's start with everyone's favorite subject, which is pricing. And a lot has changed in a couple years. Early on, as Kamado Joe was in hyper growth mode, there used to be a significant discount for the top spec Kamado Joe versus Big Green Egg. And this is still true if you want to look at a Series 1 or a Series 2 comparably spec'd. In fact, a Series 2 grill and Series 1 grill are almost the exact same dimensions, and they still represent a significant price increase and include all of the same, comparable features. But for today's comparison, I'm comparing the latest and greatest of each. So I'm working with the Kamado Joe Classic Series 3 versus the large Big Green Egg. Now, local currency is Canadian dollars for me, so maybe you want to convert, but that's a really important indication here as well, is every dealer may have a deal, different motivation and price. So don't take these prices to the bank. Be sure to check out to your local dealers. You may find someone willing to wheel and deal and get a better deal on the other one. And that can be a big part of your purchase criteria. But for me, at my local dealer, these two units are priced exactly the same. So we're at $24.99, and they come as closely spec'd as you can. So on the Big Green Egg, with that, you're getting the acacia side shelves, the nest and the handler, the egg itself, the regulator, the egg expander system, which is giving you the ability to do direct and indirect cooking. And then with the Kamado Joe Classic, this one comes comes fully loaded. You don't need to go into the dealer and check a bunch of options, which is an important distinction. You can walk into a dealer and get a naked egg with nothing else, and it is significantly less expensive, but you can't even do indirect cooking. At my dealer, when I first bought my very first egg, it didn't even include a cooking grid. And so for it to actually be usable, you need to check a bunch of options. Kamado Joe takes a different approach here where everything's included. It comes with a grill gripper, an ash tool, the metal cart, metal side shelves you can put hot stuff on, the slow roller, heat deflector plates, the divide and conquer rack for 3 tiers on the Series 3, control tower top, the mesh gasket, the airlift hinge, all of those things are included. So really when you walk out of the dealer here, all you need is some charcoal and most importantly some food, and you are ready to go. But that's something else that I've seen change over the last couple of years is the pricing on the Joe, especially on the Series 3 and the newer ones. There's been a few little price increases. And on the Big Green Egg, there's been a move to more of these all-in bundles with a little bit of savings from when I first did the price head-to-head. So I'll put the stats and the prices up on screen so you can see that, everything that's included. But on a price-to-price perspective, there isn't much between these two to make our decision easier. So let's look at some of the things that do matter. Okay, so first let's look at the egg. It comes now on a nice metal cart with locking wheels. The handler has a nice handle at the back that makes it easy to grip. We've got these nice acacia side shelves which look amazing when new and quickly sort of weather naturally, as well as this nice wooden handle. And I do love a nice natural wood handle, plus the regulator up top here, which has sort of a rubber end to protect you from getting burnt, is how we control our top temperatures. Let's open it up inside and take a look. So right away you can already see some changes where we've got updated bands that help secure the dome. This is a problem on the vintage eggs that I had where after a heat cycle you open your dome like this and the dome may continue moving all the way down to ground level and smash into pieces. So we've got an updated hinge mechanism and bands that help secure that. We also, you can't really tell a difference just looking at it, but I'm told and read online that the felt gasket material has gotten an upgrade to be a little bit more heat resistant. Inside, everything else to me still looks the same. We have a one-piece firebox on the bottom, which will have a charcoal sort of ash grate, which is what our charcoal is sitting on. This is the same for Series 1 and Series 2 Joes. It's the Series 3 where you get an included charcoal basket. Big Green Egg makes a fire basket, but that's not included at the same price and it's not in here. Next, after your firebox, you have your fire ring. Now this was an area that I really like to see change on Kamado Joe, and I'll show you a clip here on mine, is that these components being one piece after some heat cycles are prone to crack. And so maybe every couple years you would go through a firebox, or at least I did, and almost every season I'd go through a fire ring. And this would happen so often you just end up sometimes with a spare one or two in the garage waiting for it to explode. So everything else right now looks the same. Let me show you what's different. So you see these notches. When I had my egg, this was the way that I would always do indirect cooking, is with the, oh, I don't even have it down there properly, is with the plate setter, and then you would drop your cooking grids on. One of my complaints about the plate setter is that you don't get even protection all the way. And so there's pretty good sized gaps around here. And if you have a long cook that you're doing like ribs or brisket that goes front to back, there's really not a way to, you know, stay within the confines of these three little triangles, and so inevitably things get burned. And so I did a little test just to show with a baguette where you put something long in an egg and the plate setter doesn't actually protect all ends equally. So since this came out, there's a new system. Let me show you the egg expander. So the egg expander opens up a bunch of options for multi-level cooking. And so if you're familiar with the divide and conquer system from Kamado Joe or Ceramic Grill Store's PS Woo and extender, this will look pretty familiar. But the idea here is this is all integrated. So now you get these Big Green Egg half moon deflectors. So we can drop those right here like so. And I like that Big Green Egg has a little bit of a bevel on these to help them sit flush. So now you'll notice you have what looks like a cap on top of our firebox, and that's not really true. I can get my finger down underneath that, so there's still places for heat to come up, but we have a much larger indirect cooking surface. You can fit a brisket on an 18-inch grill, but when you start shrinking that indirect zone to be only about 80% of the capacity, it's amazing how little large cooks you can fit. So this completely solves that. So we've got our heat deflector plates, then we could drop in our cooking grids. And so 2 half grids, so we got lots of flexible options where we can do different arrangements with 1 half moon, 1 cooking grid, etc. I've just got it set up in the low and slow configuration. But the other part of the expander is the raised grid accessory, which will add more cooking real estate to your grill. Let me show you that. So here's the base portion of the expander. Then you get your extra cooking grid, and you see you've got these little hooks. So we just slide on like so. And what I love about this is it's got these little hooks that'll stop it from sliding forward, so it's not going to hit our probe or come out of the grill and potentially get knocked off, so that's nice and secure. But you can have your food all the way back, and then just naturally it will close with the force of the dome pushing that forward into position. This is, if you're going to have a sliding system, the best one I've seen. If you have a hinge system, I used to have one of these on my egg where it would swing out like this. It looks great when it's just a brand new product and the grate is swinging. But if you have a bunch of chicken wings or whatever it is you're cooking and you swing this out, those continue to drop grease, which will go on your deck, your patio stone, your shoes, or everything in between, and it is a mess to clean up. So if you're going to have something move, I think this front to back, staying largely, except for maybe the back area within the confines of the grill, is a great improvement. Let me show you the regulator cap up close. So the next big change from the daisy wheel for Big Green Egg was to go to the regulator, and the regulator comes with an accessory. You can actually get a little bit of a rain hood. I had that as I bought as an aftermarket accessory for my egg right before I got rid of it. I found it did a few things well, like warm my coffee sitting on there, but I didn't find it gave me a ton of rain protection, especially if it is driving a little bit down and sideways. So that's maybe, optional, but I do like the regulator cap, mostly because it is made out of cast iron. So if this ever gets rusted, chipped, damaged, or just not looking good as new, you can put a little bit of oil on it, throw it in the egg itself, run it at 500 degrees for a bit, let the fire die down, and it will come out looking good as new. Obviously, you don't want to have your rubber finger protector on there. So I love the cast iron design of the regulator cap. Compared to the Big Green Egg, some things that are a little bit more tricky is finding your exact temperature. So I know some members on forums will make little notches in their regulator cap. So to have a line here and say, okay, that's going to be 250 degrees, that might be 270, there's, getting close to, 300 degrees. Otherwise, you just have to start to memorize, where you're lining up maybe on the different letters and or eyeball it. That's something that the Joe makes a little bit easier, but I do love the cast iron design. Last but not least is a nice large, I think that's 3-inch diameter, Tell True temperature gauge, which is really easy to read. Even if you're a couple feet back from your grill, you can start to pick up some of these numbers. In fact, I think I can read those a little bit easier from a distance than the Kamado Joe temperature gauge. Okay, taking a look at the Kamado Joe Classic Series 3, you can see it has these nice metal side shelves. Now that may not seem like a big deal to be comparing side shelves, but these are metal. So when you're taking out a pizza stone or a deflector and you want to change from low and slow to hot and fast, having a workspace that is heat safe to put hot grill accessories is really nice. They also clean up really well. So as you can tell, a little bit of elbow grease, and these still look pretty much as good as new. And so having a nice hot heat surface is great. The other difference here is the cart. And so like on the egg, you got an included cart, but the cart here I find is a little bit more usable since I'm able to store my heat deflectors, my slow roller, as well as my cooking grids or anything like that, and keep it contained under the grill itself, which provides a little bit of rain protection, as well as just as a place to put things if you don't have a fully built table. You also have a 3-inch temperature gauge that's giving you information like the egg in Fahrenheit as well as Celsius. And then the control tower top, which I do love the lines in terms of being able to find things. So for example, if I want 270 degrees, I know I am an 1/8 inch past the first line. If I want about 350 degrees, I'm going to the third line, as well as a pull-out, ash drawer, ash catcher. And so this is great for not only cleaning the grill, but for adding wood chips mid-smoke. And so on a grill like the Egg or the Kamado, there's no good way to get access to the fire when it's fully loaded with deflector plates and a brisket. But this pull-out ash drawer is really easy to throw in a couple wood chips, and about an hour or so later, they're fully turned into charcoal, and you can keep smoke rolling all day long. On the things that I maybe don't love as much is, well, I think this is maybe the control tower top, one of the best design caps. I love the ease of finding a specific temperature. I love the versatility of swinging open. I love the rain protection that even in driving rains keeps water out of your grill. You can see my little pet peeve here, which is this is not cast iron, it's cast aluminum. And after years of abuse, is I've had a few little paint flakes. Now, it doesn't affect the performance in any way. It just doesn't look as nice as day one as used Egg does. So that's one thing. And the other is on this handle here. So while it's durable and holds up, I just like the feel of wood over plastic, but again, we're splitting hairs. Back into the I do like is this airlift hinge. So this latch system and the mesh gaskets are game changers. So being able to have your dome open, and this is really one finger operation. There's no slamming. You're never going to break your ceramic. When you have neighbors or kids come over and they lift the Egg, I used to dread the sound of someone lifting and just letting go, and you'd hear the thud of your dome crashing down to the ground. So we don't have that. Let's take a look inside. So as you can see, we have Kamado Joe's multi-piece firebox. And so there's some pros and some cons with this. The cons is really just in the setup experience, is that you need to line these pieces up, and I found just using a little bit of toilet paper or paper towel to prop them up makes it really easy so that we can get this ring on. The advantage of this, though, is there's room for expansion and contraction, and 3 years later, I have not cracked any ceramic in my firebox, which I cannot say is true of my Big Green Egg. You've also got this really nice, thick stainless steel charcoal basket that's been holding up to plenty of fires just fine. And then when you want to remove everything and clean out, that is super simple to do. For your indirect cooking setup, you've got a couple choices. You could use the included slow roller, drop on the base here. And the marketing claim here from Kamado Joe is just creating a bit of a pressurized area where the smoke and heat's going to rise, hit this plate, and it's going to force it out and help the air circulate more evenly. In fact, they claim up to 20 times better smoke circulation in your dome. And while I don't have a way of measuring that, what I can tell you is using the slow roller, I've measured using various temperature probes all over the grid and have achieved a consistency of about 1 degree Fahrenheit in all the different areas. So this is basically giving you 18 inches of grid capacity. And that's one of the big things I noticed coming from Big Green Egg to Kamado Joe is how much larger an 18-inch grid is when you can use all of it. So if going from here, you have a couple choices. Next, we're going to install our divide and conquer rack. So we could go directly for our grids, but something that's been working brilliantly for me is my double indirect setup. So to do double indirect, what do I mean? Well, that means I'm going to use both sets of included deflector shields from the factory, like so. And just like Big Green Egg, we've got our half moon cooking grids installed, and we are ready to go. Now, one of the reasons I love double indirect, you can see here, is it's providing an extra layer of protection from the heat coming up from the bottom, which potentially burns the bottom of our food. So if you're doing brisket, pulled pork, or ribs, sometimes sitting directly on top of that fire, you can overdo the bottom while you're still not getting the smoke you want on top. The double indirect method helps protect the bottom from overburning, plus it deliberately gets worse fuel economy where we're burning a cleaner, hotter fire, which helps improve the quality of smoke. The only thing different here in the price to price is the grid extender is an extra cost accessory. And don't remember the price from memory, so I'll put it on screen. But if you did want to add the grid extender, that's an extra cost. And here's how the grid accessory goes on. So you don't have sliding capability, but again, you also don't have any risk of food drippings anywhere. So those are about equal in my opinion from usability. So now that we've done a quick overview of each grill, what are some other factors outside of the different specs, options, and included features that can help you make a decision? And so for that, I'm gonna go for the obvious here, which is warranty. Now, both of these grills offer outstanding warranty. So to the original purchaser, for the lifetime of the grill, the ceramic core components, the stuff that costs you money, has a lifetime guarantee. So make sure if you're the original purchaser, you don't get rid of your receipt and you register with either manufacturer. That being said, both manufacturer goes about their warranties differently. Big Green Egg goes through a dealer network, so you're not dealing with Big Green Egg directly for the warranty, you're dealing with your dealer. And like with all things dealers, if you've bought a car, maybe had a good experience or maybe you've had a bad experience, this can be true with your independent dealer. And so I've had times where if I've had a firebox or something crack, my local dealer doesn't want to order a special warranty part for me at the time outside of their overall Big Green Egg restocking order, since they pay the shipping and the cost for that, even though the part is comped. And I had an entire summer where that firebox was out of commission. Now you could risk it and try and use your egg with a cracked firebox, but my friend did that, and using his medium egg with a cracked firebox, it quickly stressed his base and that cracked. So I don't think that's really wise. On the other hand, I've heard plenty of stories where people walk into their local dealer and the dealer gives them a part off of the showroom floor and just takes care of it. That is an amazing customer service experience, but sadly I wish or could guarantee it's the same for everyone everywhere. So check out your local dealer and the reviews of them for warranty. To help try and solve this, Kamado Joe takes a different approach. So instead of getting some really great experiences and maybe some not so great experiences, which I definitely encountered in my dealer experience with Big Green Egg, they try and take more of a corporate approach and solve everything through a website. But like all things corporate, you're losing that local dealer connection. I have a person, I know their name, I can go see them, I can call them, they can pick up the phone. Instead, it's sort of a web-based submission form. Now, I think on the all in all, for a global company, that model has more promise for surprising and delighting more people more often. But just like with Big Green Egg, I've had a bad experience. I've read stories of Kamado Joe of people waiting. The good news is both companies eventually figure things out and take care of their customers. And so I don't think there's a distinction here to make your decision on warranty and support. They're both exceptionally well-made grills, and they're both backed by manufacturers that take their commitment to customer service seriously, and they just happen to choose to go about it a different way, which each one has some pros and cons. So which should you choose? Well, the good news is the answer to that question is there is no terribly wrong answer here. If you choose either one, you're not going down a dead-end street destined for despair. But would I change my decision after owning Big Green Egg for a number of years, switching to Kamado Joe? Not in a heartbeat. While I appreciate that Big Green Egg has taken the feedback and some of that innovation and frustration of not changing the product to heart and actually started to introduce some new features, I still don't think it goes far enough to change the cooking experience. Speaking of the cooking experience, another factor is the taste of the food. And in an upcoming video, I'm gonna be cooking a brisket, splitting it in half, and cooking it on the Big Green Egg and the Kamado Joe and doing a blind taste test. So make sure you're subscribed and you got the notification bell on so you're alerted when that comes out. I can't wait. This is something I wish I had done when I had my original eggs before I got rid of them, but now that I have this for a short period of time under rental, I want to take advantage of every day and do a head-to-head cook and see if we can actually taste the difference. But taste aside, how do we make a decision? So given these two are a virtual tie for price and local currency at $24.99, and while the Kamado Joe has come up in price and the Big Green Egg has started to include more bundles, or at least my dealer has, that help offset some of that price difference to the point where they're in a dead heat at $24.99, I still think you get more for the Kamado Joe, with a Series 3 being 4 inches taller, the 3-tier divide and conquer rack, the cart that is actually usable, the airlift hinge, and the gasket. These are areas that Kamado Joe still has a sizable advantage. If they were to copy something though, I do love the more premium feel of a wood handle, just personally that's for me, as well as a cast iron top that can be reseasoned and continue to look new years down the road. But those aren't, huge deal breakers. What can be another consideration is accessory support. And so while I'm glad to see Big Green Egg, starting to innovate and offer some new, products that were available only exclusively by either Kamado Joe or the aftermarket, like Accessories from Ceramic Grill Store, which does a great job, by the way, local small business, making things like the PSWoo and extender rack that I had on my large egg. That's now an option with the expander. They haven't kept up to the same level of innovation other accessories. So Kamado Joe has great grill surfaces like the soapstone, one of my favorite, the Joe Tisserie for spinning, which by the way fits the egg, so large fits. The Dojo for making kind of wood-fired pizza oven, and on and on and on. So there's also a great deal of accessories. And the elephant in the room here, while we're calling this an apples to apples comparison, these two grills aren't really apples to apples. The Joe is 4 inches taller. I can get away with both heat deflectors and turn out some amazing food and not overcook the bottom and get some great smoke. So really the more direct comparison is the Series 2 Kamado Joe Classic, and now that in local currency is about $1,600, so nearly $1,000 less than an equally outfitted egg. And so for $1,000, I could think of a lot of things that I would do with that. I would add the Joe Tisserie, one of my favorite accessories, the soapstone, maybe the Dojo if you're into pizza, or a pizza stone, or anything else that you want, and still have hundreds of dollars left over. And so updated review a couple years later, we've definitely learned some things, getting a few more years of each grill under the belt. But am I going back? Nope. I'm more than happy to say I still think that Kamado Joe is the hands down best choice, even though there's no wrong choice here, but the best choice if you happen to be in the market for a Kamado grill. So go out to your local dealer, check them out. And since I've not seen any local dealer or video do this, my next video will be a head-to-head brisket cook, where I'll share my insights and if we can actually even taste a difference blindfolded on either of these two grills. Let me know in the comments if you think we'll be able to. I'm not so sure. I think they'll be, pretty similar, but let me know. That's it for today though. I'm James from Soakin' Dad Barbecue signing off. Remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.